share screen sekarang, Mbak? No. Share screen-nya. Oke. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
From
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
We are from the last group, psycholinguistic. We'll present about language, thought, and culture. The members of the group, there are me, Bendawati Rahmi, Naura Nutrifali Elvira, and Wandia Francisca Utami. Materials outline, there are relationship at the heart of psycholinguistics, four theories regarding the dependence of thought and culture language, erroneous beliefs underlying the four theories, and the theory thought is of language. Nah, the first material is a relationship at the heart of psycholinguistics. This is the story of Robert Meyer, the arrest of Sunday school teacher. May of 1920, in Hamilton County, Nebraska, Robert Meyer was arrested for violating a certain state law. It was Nebraska 1919 Standards teaching foreign language, that is, a language other than English, to children under the age of 13 years. Meyer had been teaching Bible stories in German at Zion Parochial School to a 10-year-old boy. Since German was a foreign language for the boy, Meyer was in violation of the law. The state had passed this law essential with the German language as the target. America had just finished a war with Germany, and generally there was a hatred of Germany and things German, particularly its military and authoritarian values, ideals, and political institutions. Meyer appeals to the Nebraska Supreme Court. Meyer decided to appeal his lower court case to the Supreme Court of the state of Nebraska. The lawyers for the state of Nebraska made essentially the same claim that the famous German philosopher Wilhelm von Humboldt, that is, the language by its very nature represents the spirit and national character of a people. The state of Nebraska argued that by teaching children the grammar, structure, and vocabulary of the German language, Meyer could harm American children by instilling in them the German values that were embedded in the German language. The U.S. Supreme Court takes a position on language, thought, and culture. The Nebraska Supreme Court denied Meyer's appeal, but Meyer was not content with that ruling. He took his case to the United States Supreme Court. There he won his case, with the court overturning his Nebraska convictions. It is 1922 ruling. The court started as one basis for its decision that Mere knowledge of the German language cannot reasonably be regarded as harmful. It maintained that knowing a foreign language would not itself provide the values and culture of the country from which that language is derived. Can we distinguish a self from a harmful second language? In the present case, the question is clear. If teaching a second language to children is antithetical to the morals and values of the society in which they live, then clearly children should not be taught a second language. Perhaps that a single second language could be taught if that language is a good language. It means with the first language. The next material will deliver by Naura.
Okay, thank you, Miss Bunda. And then there are 4 theories regarding the dependence of thought and culture on language. The first theory is speech is essential for thought. And the second theory, language is essential for thought. The third theory, language determines our shapes or perception of nature. And the last theory is about language determines our shapes, our worldview. It will deliver one by one. And now I will explain about the first theory first. First theory, speech is essential for thought. Proponents of this view hold that thought is a kind of behavior that originates from speech production. Typically, such theories are held by behaviorists who wish to get rid of mind and mentalism in psychology, linguistics, and philosophy, and to replace the notion of thought or cognition with something that is physically observable or potentially observable. So they define thought as subvocal speech or behavior and not something mental as in the traditional view of psychology. The simplest and most satisfactory view is that thought is simply behavior, verbal or non-verbal, and then comfort or effort. It is not some mysterious process responsible for behavior, but the very behavior itself in all the complexity of its controlling relation with respect to both man, the behavior, and the environment in which he lives. It is according Skinner, 1957. And then about that, there are inadequacies of the theory. There are 6 objections to this theory. They are 1. Children having no speech production can comprehend speech and think. And then 2. Speech comprehension, which implies thought, develops before speech production in normal children. 3. Simultaneously speaking aloud while thinking about something different commonly occurs in everyday life. And then telling a lie, and then meaning and thought occur without behavior. And the last one is interpreting between language can be done. Now we will discuss only 4 theory. The first is children having no speech production can comprehend speech and think. If a person can comprehend the meaning of speech, that person must have the ability to think. It will be ludicrous to have to argue that person exists who understand the meaning of speech but are unable to think. Surely, the ability to answer items on intelligent tests presupposes the existence of thought in the person taking the test. It must therefore be concluded that persons without the ability to speak can think. The notion that speech production is necessary in order to think is clearly, it is false. And then the second one is speech comprehension, which implies Tauf develops. The developmental process is that speech comprehension precedes speech production. It is the pattern that continues through the acquisition process, according to Ingram in 1989. As the child acquires an aspect of language and comprehension, the child can then try to figure out how to use it in production. The outcome of some research is that children would not be able to utter words or sentences for the purpose of communication or not simple imitation without gaining a prior understanding of speech is surely to be expected. One could not use speech meaningfully unless one knew what meaning such speech had. Thus, it must be concluded that for normal children, as well as mute hearing children, speech comprehension is the basis for speech production in the mind. Since the ability to comprehend speech implies the existence of Tauf, it therefore must be concluded that speech production isn't necessary for Tauf. And then the third one is telling a lie. Neither would telling a lie be possible if Tauf is a kind of speech. The very essence of lie is saying one thing while thinking something quite different. It is lie. Behaviorists which wish to use one process of sentence creation for both process, it is about saying and thinking, simply by distinguishing the overt or speaking aloud sentence from covert or speaking to oneself or subvocally sentence. A valid psycholinguistic theory must allow two distinct processes with different content to occur at the same time. The issue of lying demonstrates that the behaviors cannot define Tauf out of existence. And then the last one, meaning and Tauf occur without behavior. Behaviorists say behavior of the body is essential for Tauf in his theory of the origin Tauf. They concluded that thinking was nothing more than a reflection of physical events in the body. Many psychologists then believed that they had begun to localize meaning and Tauf in the body so that once and for all mind could be banished from psychology. It was not long, however, before the inadequacies of such formulation became apparent. The major problem with this theory is that it incorrectly predicts that a lost Tauf or meaning will occur with damage or removal body parts. Smith had made a scientific point, since while paralyzed, he could in no way speak and could make only minimal bodily responses. It is clear that Tauf was not dependent on body movement or movement of the organs of speech, because no movement occurred, not even sub-minimal ones.
The next material will deliver by Wandira.
Okay, thank you, Bunda. In this material, we'll explain there are in 9.4 language essential for Tauf. There are 2 points. The first one in 9.4.1 proponents of the theory. Theories such as Sapir, Whorf, and Vygotsky hold that the language system with its rules of vocabulary is necessary for Tauf. This theory is broader than the prior theory, which held that Tauf is derived from speech production since it encompasses all of the language, both speech production and speech understanding. pendapat dari yang tadi disebutin, menurut Sapir, Wolf, dan Vygotsky berpendapat bahwa sistem bahasa dengan aturan kosakatanya sangat diperlukan untuk berpikir. Teori ini ada juga yang teori lebih luasnya yang berpendapat bahwa pemikiran berasal dari produksi ujaran. Apa itu yang dimaksud dengan ujaran? Ujaran adalah kalimat yang dilisankan. Ujaran juga biasa berupa wicara yang diapit oleh dua kesenyapan. Dalam secara singkatnya, menurut Kamus Besar Bahasa Indonesia, ujaran adalah kalimat atau bagian kalimat yang dilisankan. Kembali ke definisi sebelumnya, yang berpendapat bahwa pemikiran berasal dari produksi ujaran karena mencakup seluruh bahasa, baik produksi ujaran maupun pemahaman ujaran. Next. Bun. And the second is in 9.4.2 inadequacies of the theory, there are two objections regarding this theory. They are first, the person without language can think. The person, according to first 1966 and 1971, for example, provided research data that show no difference in intelligence between normal and deaf person. Even though the language knowledge of the deaf person is generally far below that of hearing person. Nah, ada banyak anak tunarungu yang tidak mulai menguasai bahasa sampai ia cukup usia atau sampai tua. Seringkali setelah 3 tahun baru dia bersekolah di sekolah luar biasa. Ini biasanya adalah anak-anak yang memiliki gangguan pendengaran, tapi biasanya anak disabel ini belum bisa, bahasanya kan beda sama kita karena mereka pakai bahasa isyarat. Nah, tapi rata-rata mereka belum bisa bahasa isyarat karena biasanya orang tuanya yang bisa mendengar atau orang tuanya yang tidak disabel. Nah, jadi anak-anak ini, tapi katanya gini, kalau anak-anak yang tidak bisa mendengar itu pemikiran bahasanya atau cara berpikir tentang bahasanya dengan anak-anak yang normal lainnya. Tapi ada penelitian yang telah membuktikan bahwa ketika anak-anak yang disabel atau tidak bisa mendengar bermain bersama orang-orang normal, ketika dilihat ternyata mereka tetap bisa memahami dari gestur walaupun tidak menggunakan isyarat yang dengan seharusnya atau terstruktur, mereka tetap bisa memahami bahasa dari orang yang bisa mendengar atau orang-orang yang normal. Jadi bahwa orang yang bisa mendengar ataupun tidak, mereka memiliki kemampuan bahasa yang sama saja, tidak ada perbedaan. Nah, yang kedua yaitu multilinguals are world persons. If multilingual person have more than one thought process or one for each language, such a person would not be able to think coherently or would have separate two intelligence of personalities. Different grading ideas would be involved with the different language. Nah, di materi ini ngejelasin bahwa orang yang memiliki atau yang bisa bahasa lebih dari 3, ada penelitian yang bilang kalau misalnya anak kecil ataupun orang-orang yang bisa memahami bahasa lebih dari 1 selain bahasa ibunya, dia memiliki kepribadian yang beda. Nah, ditentang di materi ini karena ada juga penelitian nih yang juga disebutin di materi, ada kasus dari Helen Keller yang pengetahuannya gini, katanya dia masukin ini tuh ke dalam bukunya yang berjudul Story of My Life. Nah, di situnya itu ada kalau misalnya di dalam satu rumah ada tuh 3 anak yang salah satu anak yang bisa memiliki 3 bahasa. Kenapa? Karena dari dia waktu lahir dia berbicara kepada ayahnya menggunakan bahasa Inggris, bahasa awalnya. Kepada ibunya berbicara bahasa Jepang, dan kepada neneknya yang tinggal satu rumah dengan dia berbicara bahasa Rusia. Nah, kenapa dibantah? Karena walaupun anak itu dari kecil bisa berbahasa fasih 3 bahasa, tapi dia tetap memiliki 1 kepribadian. Jadi nggak punya triple kepribadian. Jadi walaupun kita bisa memahami atau bisa fasih dalam bahasa lebih dari 1, itu tidak memungkinkan kalau misalnya orang itu bakal punya kepribadian lebih dari 1. Jadi walaupun orang bisa berbahasa fasih lebih dari satu, orang itu bakal tetap mempunyai kepribadian yang tetap sama gitu. Next.
Okay. The next material is theory. Third theory. Language determines or shapes our perception of nature. First, a proponent of the theory, Wolf, Sapir, Korzybski, and others are of the view that one's knowledge of vocabulary or syntax influences one's perception and understanding of nature. Uh, there, there are two theories. One is Newtonian space, time, and matter are no intuitions. They are the shape of culture and language. That is where Newton got them. Benjamin Ward from Carroll, 1956, page 153. And then Einstein, the relativity of time is a reform in semantics, not in metaphysics. Philip Frank, 1953, page 218. Next slide. Next, in these questions of the theory, perception, interest, and need determine vocabulary. Psychologists have tried experimentally to determine what effects, if any, knowledge of the vocabulary of language has on perception or behavior. It is our interest and needs that determine our knowledge of vocabulary and its use. Nowadays, people know little of the vocabulary surrounding horse and horse-driven transportation. We know a lot about automobiles and their parts and functions. Vocabulary is selected for use. Once it fails to serve the need, it falls out of use. Another example is if you interest about a car, you know about the parts of car and the function. Kalau misalkan tertarik sama sesuatu, pasti tahu sama vocabulary yang ada di sesuatu yang kalian tertarik itu. Next slide-nya. The next is a color and snow vocabulary. Color words. Some language have only a small number of color words. If language were the basis of thought, of the perception of nature, as well as the other's content, then one would expect speakers of this language with such a limited repertoire of color terms to have perceptual difficulty in distinguishing colors they have no term for. Research has generally shown that this is not the case, although some conflicting results have been obtained. Snow words. There are dramatic vocabulary differences from language to language. The Inuit is Eskimo, have a large number of words involving snow. In Hawaii, there's only one, the English word snow. The Inuit have single word for snow on the ground, had snow on the for snow on the ground, had snow on the ground, block of snow, and others. Jadi, because they live in snow, so they have many vocabulary yang ada snow-nya gitu. There is no reason to suppose tough Inuits learn to perceive varieties of snow because of language rather than through their life experience and need. It is because the importance of snow in their lives that they have created more words for snow than Hawaii's. You know that Hawaii is tropic, daerah tropik. Jadi so word snow is only one. Then two, English-speaking skiers in cold countries do distinguish a variety of types of snow despite the lack of vocabulary in English. What they do to describe in language the physical condition of snow is creating phrase, like powder snow, wet snow, and more. It is this language device of creating phrases that every language has that make up for any vocabulary this devices. The next is Hopi time and Chinese counterfactuals. Hopi people and time. Works research in the 1930s with the Hopi, Native American people. So Hopi is Native American people. He believed that the Hopi language had few words relating to time, and that this gave them radically different concept of space and time. But other researchers have found that Worf was wrong in claiming that the Hopi language is the timeless one. Gipper found that while Hopi doesn't have a formal tense, it nevertheless contains a whole series of experience over time. Many of these expressions appear as adverbs or prepositions. According to Molotky, 1985, Hopis actually do use a variety of time different such as variables relating to harvest, the moon, the sun, and the other significant events. Molotky very concludes people are not different because of their language, but because of their experience. Next slide. Chinese language and counterfactuals. Bloom, 1981, 81, claimed that Chinese were not as able as English speakers to think hypothetically about what is not true, to think counterfactually, because of certain grammatical features of the Chinese language. In this case, EU 1983 found that the results obtained were due to the faulty translation, and that once proper translation were made, there was no basis for claiming the difference in thinking. Next slide. Next is number vocabulary in the Amazon. Two studies on Amazonian language were published in 2004, both of which were considered speakers' numerical understanding. Pika, 2004, investigated the Munduruku language, while Gordon, 2004, investigated the Piraha language. Both of these languages have a very small set of number words. Munduruku has words only up to the number 5, while Piraha has only words for two, one, two, and many more. Many. After applying some tests, in both cases, the author of the studies concluded that the speakers of those two languages were conceptually affected negatively because of the small size of their number vocabulary. The reaction to the conclusion was quick and pointed. The critics demonstrated problems in the reason of the researchers. The dominant view emerging is that, given the proper settings, speakers of this Amazonian language would not show a cognitive difference of their language. Primack and Primack, 2005, say, although hunter-gatherers had little need to exact numbers, one can imagine that no owner of stored goods would be to receive 3 casks of oil when he had stored 4. Next. Lack of vocabulary doesn't indicate lack of concept. Experience doesn't always lead us to coin vocabulary items. Sometimes we choose to create phrases. For example, English speakers are quite aware of their hand, yet we have a vocabulary item for the underside, palm. We have no word for the top side. Instead, we use the phrase back of the hand. The lack of a vocabulary item is not indicative of a lack of the concept. New animals, plants, and other things in nature are continually being discovered. Is this the discoverer, not the difference then over the name? Knowledge overrides a literal word's meanings. We can believe something quite different from what the language literally specifies, and the continual use of a language from may not change an underlying thought. Like sunrise or sunset. We know that the sun doesn't rise or set no matter how many times we hear people say it or we say it ourselves. English speakers have simply stuck with the original coinings, even though it came to be known that it was the earth and not the sun that was doing the moving. Next is multilingual view of nature. Multilinguals must be said multilinguals must be said to have a variety of ways of viewing the physical world. The multilinguals would have as many different conceptual perceptual system of the physical world of he or she has language. If it is true that different languages have distinctive and important effect of the way we view nature, the multilingual must simultaneously have distinctive and important ways of viewing nature. The conclusion is there is no foundation to the claim that vocabulary affects our view of nature. In fact, the evidence shows the reverse to be true. One would think that on an important issue, the proponents of the theory would offer some evidence in support of their view. The fact is that Sapir, Worf, and others offer little beyond mere assertion in favor of their claims. Next, theory 4. Language determines or shapes our cultural worldview. Proponents of the theory. Some theorists believe that even if language is somewhat distinct of thought, nevertheless, knowing a language will itself condition and influence one cultural social belief or view of the world. Language is a language is the guide to social reality. Thus, a language is not ordinarily thought as of essential interest to the study of social science. It powerfully conditions all our thinking about social problems and processes. Human beings don't live in the objective world alone, nor alone in the world of social activity as ordinarily understood, but are very much at the mercy of the particular language which has become the medium of expression for society. Next. This is a theory. Language, any language, has at its bottom certain metaphysics which ascribe consciously or unconsciously some sort of substructure to this word. Alfred Korzybski, 1933. The Aristotelian type of education leads to the humanly harmful, gross, macroscopic, brutalizing, biological, animalistic type of orientation, which others know today to be humanly inadequate. Desperate such first as different Hitlers, Mussolini's, Stalin's, and more. Whether in political, financial, industrial, scientific, medical, educational, and or even publishing. Uh, for the next, inadequacy of the theory. Same language yet different worldview. Variation may be observed among speakers is the same neighborhood and even in the same family. Language influences or determines one worldview, then we should expect uniformity uniformity on overall use outlook since only one language system is involved, English. This is obviously false. The theory predicts that we should not expect difference in politic, social organization, or metaphysical thinking among speakers of the same language because their view must somehow be conditioned by their language. Monolingual speakers of English are not at all restricted by their subject predicate grammar. Different language with similar worldview. Many countries having widely different language may share similar political, social, religious, scientific, and philosophical views. If a language system influences or determines worldview, then we would expect that people with different language will hold different worldview. Such is not the case. Chinese government does promote the teaching of English. The government is not afraid of the grammar of English. They simply have students learn English grammar with sentences having the content that they consider appropriate. The Roman Catholic Church is not wary of language, but it is wary of books in those languages that can spread ideas that are opposite to the teaching of the Crunch. The grammar of a language is not a trait. The potential trait lies in the sentence that the speaker of a language may produce with that grammar. The use of the grammar of the language that is important, and that the characteristics of the grammar itself are not relevant. Next is some language, but word view change over time. We may observe that society may change its social structure and word view, even though its language remains relatively unchanged. For example, it about 100 years, China has a changed for feudalism and Qing dynasty to capitalism to version of communism. Yet the Chinese language has changed relatively little over that period in terms of its basic grammar. If the grammar doesn't change, then the culture and wordplay should not change either. Next, multilingual view. If a person is multilingual, the theory predicts that such a person will have many distinct of worldview as language system. Thus, as a multilingual would have to hold competing views as being true, which would surely confuse a person functioning. For example, would a Chinese English bilingual think like communist when speaking Chinese, but think like a capitalist exploiter when speaking English? But that is not true. Such the implications of the theory are absurd, and theory must be regarded as false. The next material delivered by Naura.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bunda. The next material is about erroneous belief underlying the four theories. There are three such mistaken beliefs. The first one is their analysis of language is adequate, and the second one is the meaning of words is linguistic in origin, and the last one is there are primitive languages and primitive human intelligence. Okay, the first error is about their analysis of language is adequate. The most serious deficiency in the theorizing of words, Sapir, Koritsky, and others concern the assumption that the directly observable words or the structure of a sentence represent all of the semantic of thought elements of the sentence. This theory's true conclusion, largely based on what linguistics today would consider a superficial surface structure analysis. Carroll, in 1956, for example, states that our Indian languages show that with a suitable grammar, we may have intelligent sentences that cannot be broken into subjects and predicates. And that the Hopi language contained no reference to time, either explicit or implicit. Such statements, disavowed by subsequent linguistics, are made essentially because it is assumed that surface structure directly signifies all of the meaning of a sentence. This linguist thus had a tendency to focus on the differences between languages. And then the second erroneous belief is about the meaning of word is linguistic in origin. Meaning word is acquired in 4 many ways. The first one is sound form is associated with an object, situation, or event in the world. For example, the sound dog with the object dog. The second one is a sound form is associated with an idea or experience in the mind. For example, pain with the feeling of pain. And then the third one is an inference may be made in a linguistic context. An idea may be suggested. For example, in reading a paragraph, one word may not be known, but because everything else is understood, its meaning may be guessed at by inference. And the last one, an analysis of noun component morphemes may suggest a meaning for the sound form. For example, the meaning of unprimitive can be gained through knowledge, the morpheme un and primitive. And then, thus, the ultimate search of all meaning is based on linguistic experiences of the world or mind. The mistakes of Worf and others is to assume that the mere hearing of the sound form of a word, an unknown one itself provides some sort of meaning. It is except for the minor case of onomatopoeia, speech sound imitating inferential sounds, the relationship between a word and its meaning is conventional. And then the third erroneous belief, it's about there are primitive languages and primitive human intelligence. Thus, it is that Chomsky in 1967 can with some assurance assert that all languages are of familiar complexity, with each having similar basic forms and operations. And while other linguists may disagree with Chomsky on what the basic form and operation might be, they don't disagree that all languages are constructed and operate with essentially the same principle. It appears to us that Sapir-Whorf and other assumes that there was such a thing as a primitive people, and those people had a primitive grammar. Since they supposed that the primitive grammar of these people reflected their thought, they concluded that their thought was primitive too. One often hears observers of other cultures say that such and such a people are not logical or rational, of that they are somehow deficient in intellect. Such supposed deficiencies are frequently attributed to their having a primitive language. Yet modern linguistic research has never found a single language that could be called primitive.
The next material is will delivered by Wandira.
Okay, we are going to the last material in this in 9.8. The base theory is TAF is independent of language. There are 4 points. First, TAF is independent of language. The second is the development of TAF precedes the development of language. The third is the notion of thinking in language is fallacy. And the last is John Locke said is best. First, TAF is independent of language. Essentially, the one that was advocated by the philosopher John Locke some 3 centuries ago. It is that thought is independent of language, that language is independent on thought, and that the functions of language is to provide a means for the expressions and communication of thought. part of the language system is actually part of the TAF system for the meaning and semantics of the language system, or those ideas that are part of the contents of TAF. And the second is the development of TAF precedes the development of language. In this part, there is a process, the grammar develops of the result of prior TAF. Thus, the quest is as follows: from TAF to speech understanding and to speech productions. Bunda, the third, next. And the third is the notions of thinking in language is a fallacy. It is often observed that sound from words come to one's awareness while one is thinking. It is a mistake. However, to conclude from this that the sound from themselves are tough. Such words from are merely reflections of some underlying ideas. It is tough that determines that selections of words is formed. And the last is John Locke said it's best. Considering the relations of language stuff, in our view, John Locke said it best. The comforts and advantages of society not being to be had without communications of stuff. It was necessary that man should find out some external visible signs whereof does invisible ideas which his thoughts are made up of might be made known to others.
Okay. Thank you for attention. Any questions? Any question? Three, two, one.
Okay,
Okay.
close, Bunda.
Okay, I think it's enough and no questions. So thank you for attention, and sorry if there are many mistakes from us from the last group. Okay, so because this is the last group, so let's say
So we will say minal izin wal faizin ya teman-teman. Mohon maaf lahir dan batin. Dadah, makasih.
Makasih juga guys, maaf gak bisa.
Terima kasih.
Ya, izin semuanya.
Assalamualaikum. Bye-bye.
Semuanya.